How can the same shit happen to the same guy twice? Okay, so I've decided to reshoot this video because I was 20 minutes in and some stupid thing popped up on my computer and shut off my recording. I don't know why it would do that. If you're actively running a program, why would something else turn off that program? I'm a little irritated about that, but let's move on. Okay. I'm a little frustrated that I got through the entire, I talked about everything that was in the book, and then all of a sudden it freaked out on me and turned it off. So I got to go back to the page in the book. Okay, so we are back tonight. It is Halloween. Happy Halloween. I was supposed to do this video last night, but things got away with me and I wasn't able to. So let's get into the quick disclaimers. These videos are completely unedited and unfiltered, so whatever comes out of my mouth is what comes out of my mouth. I am re-recording because it got messed up. I don't like editing because it's a pain in the butt, and if I tried to edit, I would never actually post. So that's why I'm re-recording this instead of trying to edit the two videos together. And I would like to say that there are going to be spoilers, especially for the movie that I'm reviewing. There are going to be spoilers, but have no fear. If you want to avoid spoilers, just look at the list of movies below this video. I'll put a whole list and I'll section them off in categories so you know which movies I give spoilers for, which movies I quote, or which movies I simply just mention. So the poster is not on the wall anymore. It is gone. I said that in my last video that I'm getting rid of it. I did go on Amazon and review it. It was just a very, very poor quality. Great idea, poor quality. Anyway, for those of you who don't really know much about me and just popped in to figure this out, so I do have a video. The very first video I posted is an introductory video. I talk a little bit about me. Sorry, excuse me. Things have been very busy lately, and I got this. My allergies are freaking out today. The weather here in LA keeps going back and forth between cool and hot. And today, the last couple of days have been in the 60s, and then all of a sudden today's been the 80s, and it's just like messing with my sinuses. And my allergies. So if I sound a little weird, that's why. Anyway, for those of you who don't know me, you can check out my introductory video. And for those of you who are curious, who have only seen the last couple of videos, this is my unpaid movie critic shirt. I've been losing a lot of weight lately, so eventually this won't fit me, and I'm going to have to find a new fun shirt or, just replace this one. Anyway, let's get into, I'm reviewing tonight Aliens. My last review was Alien, and now tonight is Aliens. And so Alien was 1979. This is 1986. So we're talking 7-year difference. There's 7 years in between the two. And this is, and I'm sticking with the book even though the poster is gone. So this is challenge number 33, a sequel. Absolutely a sequel. Year released 1989, or 86, excuse me. Aspect ratio 1.85:1. Running time 2 hours and 17 minutes. Genre action, adventure, sci-fi. So this is not a horror like the original. James Cameron decided to go action instead. I don't think James Cameron's ever done a horror. It's just not his thing. Rated R. Date challenged tonight. Date challenge completed tonight. Halloween, October 31st, 2023. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, or 10 out of 10, whatever way you want to look at it. 10 out of 10 on IMDb. Starring a bunch of people. I was only able to fit so many people in on the little lines they give me, so instead of doing that, I will say, I will go to IMDb. Sigourney Weaver, of course, she's the franchise lead. She's fantastic. Michael Biehn, I love a lot of stuff that he does, and by chance he ended up being in this film because it was supposed to be somebody else, And that guy, I'm not going to go into the whole story. I'm sure a bunch of people know what happened, and he was unable to complete filming on the film. So James Cameron went to Michael Biehn, and I'm glad he did because I love Michael Biehn in this film. Paul Reiser, Lance Henriksen is great in this movie. Bill Paxton is like a standout. He's amazing in this movie. William Hope is in this. Mark Ralston, a bunch of people are in this. Great movie. Directed by James Cameron. Produced by Gail Ann Hurd, which if you don't know who she is, she also produced The Terminator and a bunch of other James Cameron films. Written by James Cameron, David Giler, Walter Hill, but James Cameron is the only one credited with the screenplay. So he did the screenplay. I'm assuming everybody else wrote the storyline. Music by James Horner. There's a couple of times in this movie where I feel like I hear somebody else, like a different movie, and so I'm like, I check on that, and I'm like, no, Horner didn't do that. So it may just be coincidence that it sounds a couple of times it sounds like something else, but he does do a pretty good job of the music. Awards received: sound effects editing. I was a little shocked to read that and to write that down. See, a lot of times, I definitely don't always agree with what the Academy awards, what the winners are. I don't always agree what the winners are, but sometimes, like with Terminator 2, Judgment Day, I go, oh, of course it won Best Sound Effects Edit. See, I'm screwing this all up. I already talked about all this, and it's hard for me to I'm trying to remember what I said. The sound effects editing. I remember watching Terminator 2, Judgment Day, and really going, wow, like the sound is amazing. The gunshots and the bing and the zips and all the little things and the walking and there was a lot of great sound effects in there. And I remember that was notable for me. When I watch this movie, I don't get that same feeling with the sound. So I don't know what else was nominated that year, but I'm not blown away by the sound effects editing in this film. The other award received was Best Visual Effects, Stan Winston. Absolutely. I mean, this is fantastic. I've already gushed about Stan Winston in other videos. He's fantastic. I love his work. So much great work. May he rest in peace. And this is no exception. I mean, this is like in the first one there was only one alien and a bunch of eggs. This is like alien after alien after alien and all kinds of cool, stuff. Not just aliens, but all kinds of other things. So yeah, I'm not surprised that it won Best Visual Effects. Let's see here. Why did you choose this particular film? It's one of the few sequels that I can think of that are like as good as or better than like the original. It's just like, oh my God, that's amazing. Sequels don't always live up to the original, and this one absolutely does. And that's why I was like, well, why not choose that as the challenge number 33, a sequel? Have you seen this before? Yes, I've seen it plenty of times. Only a few years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, did I grab the special edition director's version, and then since then I've been watching that version over and over. I was too young. I own it, but I was too young to watch this in the theater. It came out in '86, so I was probably 5 years old, depending on the month. I was probably 5 years old, and I don't think this is something my parents would have taken me to the theater to see. Would you recommend this film? Why or why not? Yes, I would recommend this. This is an action film in the middle of a horror genre. Well, Aliens is definitely considered a horror genre. Most people think about it as a horror genre because the first one was. This one is definitely not. This is an action sci-fi. I think he did that because he wanted to reach a bigger audience. And when you lean towards horror, you cut off certain audiences. Which character were you most able to identify with or connect with? In what way? Hicks, absolutely Hicks. I know he's not, well, he is a pretty decent part in this film, but in the first, I would say, half hour, 45 minutes, you hardly ever hear from him. He has a couple of lines, but you don't really get to know him until later, and you realize that this character has a lot of integrity. He does what's right, no matter what. He's a very strong character, but you don't know it until he's eventually in charge, and he's the one, has to give the say so, has to make the decisions, and blah blah blah. But then he also is very sympathetic. What I like about him, and why I relate to him, is because he is in charge, and yes, he is quote unquote the boss or the sergeant or whatever. He definitely thinks about other people and is compassionate towards other people. When Hudson is freaking out, he yells at him, yes, to get him to do what needs to be done. But he also is like, I get that we're all, stay frosty. We're all out. We're all strung out. This is a very stressful situation. He understands the situation, which is why I like his character. Best line or memorable quote? There are so many. There are so many great lines in this movie, and I just wrote down a bunch of Bill Paxton ones, but just because Bill Paxton, his character Hudson, is like a huge standout in this film. He's hilarious. He's definitely the comic relief, but I mean, he's the most memorable. There are other lines that are fantastic that most people would probably, and I probably wrote down some of them in my notes, that most people would probably think of other than Bill Paxton's lines, but I did write down, game over, man, game over. Oh, this isn't happening. And then when they're like, this girl survived with no weapons, and she's great. Why don't you put her in charge? His character's a standout. It's just hilarious. I'm sure I wrote some other lines that when we go through this, I'll say. But that's, you only have three tiny little lines here. Were you surprised by the ending? What would you do differently? I wouldn't do anything differently. This is not the type of movie that the ending is a surprise. I don't think. I think that the natural progression of the film made the end of the film inevitable. So there was nothing that I was surprised by. Was the sequel better or worse than its predecessor? Oh, I kind of already talked about this. If I'm really, really being nitpicky and really focusing on the differences between the two films, I would say that the original is just a little bit better and a little bit more entertaining to watch. And the only reason why I say that is because Cameron leaned towards action. And when you make an action film, inevitably, there are going to be sequences where you can almost, slightly tune out. The first time you watch it, you're definitely not tuning out. But when you watch it, 5, 10 times, at some point there are certain parts where you're almost kind of like, okay, this is the part where they're just shooting and running around and there's no plot being further than there's nothing, it's intense, yes, but I've seen this already and I know they get away and blah, blah, blah. But Alien, Ridley Scott's Alien, you watch it over and over and over, and and honestly, there's never, if you watch it the same amount of time, I feel like there's no part where I'm like, I can kind of tune out. Everything is beautifully done and artistic and wonderful, and you want to pay attention to everything, and everything is important, and that's why I feel that film is just a little bit a cut above this one, although this one is fantastic. And I rated them both 5 stars, but like I said, if I'm being real picky, I would definitely pick the original over this one. Did this film meet your expectations? Why or why not? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're looking for the story, let's take it to another level. let's not just redo the first one. Let's take it to another level. And James Cameron absolutely took this film to a different place and another level. We're not looking at one alien on a ship. We're looking at a whole colony of aliens, and an insane amount of them have decimated and taken over this entire entire community. So yes, it definitely meets expectations when it comes to a sequel. Okay, at the very bottom of the thing, they always have this little like film fact. So this one says, Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan, 1982, was the first time a movie was made as a sequel to a specific television show episode. I didn't know that, and like I said, I was recording this already and it got messed up, but I found that interesting and thought to myself, I should look up what episode they're talking about. I've watched more than half of the entire run of the original Star Trek show with William Shatner, and I don't necessarily remember an episode that would have been like the prequel to The Wrath of Khan. So I would like to research and figure out which episode they're talking about. Anyway, let's move on to my notes and hope that this video continues. The first note I put here is, so I have the director's version now, the special edition director's version, and before that, James Cameron gets on and he says a couple of things, and what he says at the very end is, at 2 hours and 37 minutes, this is the ride we intended you to take. So this is about 20 minutes longer than the original, and definitely worth it. Definitely worth it. If you haven't seen the director's version, I'd say absolutely watch it. It's been a long time since I've seen the theatrical, so I don't know all the little things that are different, but it's definitely worth it. So let's see. We find out later. Oh, right. So we find out later into the film, maybe 15, 20 minutes in, that it's been 57 years. But as the audience starting the film, I appreciate that he literally starts off where we left off. He starts where we left off. So at the end of Alien, she's in the ship, she's blown the alien away, and so they're going in space, and she's escaping. And this one literally starts with showing that escape pod. Of course, we find out later it's 57 years later, but we don't know that right away. So as the audience, we're like, wow, we're starting where we left off, which is great. Her daughter's death is a great point. I mean, he says, it's been 57 years, so obviously things have progressed. I like that human aspect, that reality aspect, trying to keep it real. Like, let's talk about her daughter, and what's happened to her, and that she's passed. I like that little point. It brings it home. It makes it real. The inquest, like, what the fuck? It's just ridiculous. It's so bureaucratic and ridiculous. They don't want to listen to anything she has to say, even though she's the only witness. And why wouldn't you listen to her? Just because you don't? I don't know. It's just it's so infuriating and so frustrating, that inquest. Of course, I'm sure it's supposed to be like that. And LV 426 is okay, and it's populated, and that's why they don't want to listen to her. Well, if you listen to closer, anyway, it's a great way to catch us up on what happened in the first one, that inquest, and get us invested in what's going on, and a nice little twist. So Cameron, those who wrote it, because that may not just have been Cameron's idea, because there were 3 people credited for writing. Oh, my sinuses. So those people, it was written really well to put that in there, to like, let's refresh the audience about what's happened in a way that doesn't feel like we're just telling you what happened last time. So I have this complaint about early James Cameron. I love early James Cameron. I love his stuff. But if I were to say one thing that was a complaint or a negative about him is his penchant for what's called rear projection. If I'm not mistaken, it's called rear projection special effects. And that's when you film like an action sequence or film a car accident or something like that, and then you put it on a giant screen, project it onto the screen. You literally have a movie and the actors are acting in front of it and reacting to it as if it were there. You see this all the time in his early work because he was very fond of that style of action sequence or whatever. You see it a lot in Terminator. You see it a lot in this. You see it and a couple of times in Terminator 2. Even though special effects and stunts had progressed a lot by that point, you still see it in Terminator 2. It's just my complaint is it looks. You can almost always tell that it's rear projection. Like the point, and I bring this up because a lot of points in this film, you're like, oh my God, that is total rear projection. Like one of the absolute worst is when the small rescue ship is coming to get them, and the alien gets the pilot girl, and then it goes down and it crashes, and they're trying to get away. That's when Hudson says, "Game over, man, game over." That is one of the worst in this film. One of the, like, you can tell they're in front of a screen. Absolutely, 100%. You can tell they're reacting to a screen. It's not really there. Anyway. It is like a lot of times you can definitely tell that's what's going on. The first time I see it in this film, I'm like, oh, I can tell that's when Newt and her family go to check out the ship, and Newt and her brother, I forget his name, Timmy, are in the little like rover or whatever, watching their parents go into the ship, and I'm like, they're totally looking at rear projection. Anyway. Oh, it's a beautiful homage. So it's a beautiful homage to the original, to Alien, when they get to the point where she says yes, she'll go, and then they get on the ship and they're going. And before they show anybody, they do the slow. It's not quite as slow and long as the original, but it's a slow, quick pan of the ship, and then through the quarters, and then where the whole crew is sleeping and things like that. It's a really nice. Excuse me, James Cameron did a really nice homage to the original when he did that whole sequence of showing them. Bill Paxton, man. Bill Paxton's hilarious. Like, every second he's on screen is just ridiculous. I mean, that was the character, and he did such a great job at bringing that character to life. I'm sure James Cameron was ecstatic with him. He really took that character amazing. I mean, one of the first times is that whole knife thing where he's freaking out. Do the knife thing. Hey, man, this isn't funny. That character is just going to be a hoot from that point on. I love that Ripley automatically has this animosity and disdain towards Bishop. I mean, it makes sort of sense because of what happened with Ash, but it creates an interesting piece of the storyline that she wants nothing to do with him, and she automatically doesn't trust him and doesn't like him. And, obviously he doesn't know why. We don't even know this character. We don't even know who he is. He's barely said a line. And we already, because we connect with Ripley, because she's the only one we know from the original, we automatically kind of like, are we not supposed to like this guy? Are we going to be, fearful of this guy? Is this guy going to turn out like Ash? Like she's thinking. I love that first part where Ripley shows that she's not just a throwaway character, not just a psychological disaster or whatever, not just a woman, not just a whatever, not just on there for the ride. I love when she's like, the first time she's a badass, which is when she uses the loader, and they laugh. They're like, she's using it better than the guy behind her. At least in my opinion, that's what it looks like. Like she's moving it and operating it better than the guy behind her who's loading things. I love that part. It's great. We finally get like, okay, this is not a victim Ripley. This is an actual, functioning Ripley. Whereas the first, up until that point, we're looking at a more or less a victim of the original Ripley, of the original trauma of what's happened, and then them taking away her license and blah 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 blah. This is the first time she becomes, what am I trying to say? A worthwhile addition to the characters. We got nukes, we got knives, we got sharp sticks. Again, like I said, almost all of Hudson's lines are fantastic. Pulse plasma rifle. He also says a phased plasma rifle. He also says that, which is a gun from. They mention that in the Terminator. Again, this is James Cameron's writing, so of course he's going to throw things like that in there. Phased plasma rifle. I love that, the constant tension of that entire first sweep of the compound. It's really, really done well because we don't know what's around every corner. And of course, Ripley is freaking out just watching the video. And waiting for the shoe to drop, and then they find Newt, which is a great twist to the storyline. Really cool. I like that. And Bishop. I love Bishop's original, like, intense fascination with the facehuggers, the aliens. And you're like, holy shit, is this going to turn into Ash? You now, as the audience, are like, oh my God, because you're worried that he's having the same reaction that Bishop has. Is he going to go down the same road as Bishop in the first one? So now you're leery. Now it's like, oh, it's not just, Ripley being cautious or paranoid. This is now us. Now we're like, oh, because he really is into that alien. Just like Ash was in the first one. That first attack is crazy as hell. Where we see all the colonists all strapped up and things like that. They're basically just hosts. And then one of them wakes up and then it bursts out and then all the aliens start, and then they shoot it and then all the aliens start. It's just perfectly done. So intense, perfectly done. I mean, he did such a great job. I love it. Now we know why it's called Aliens. They're everywhere. It's wonderful. It's such a badass moment. You may not be. What is it? Yeah. Maybe you haven't been keeping up with current events, but we just got our asses kicked. Oh my God, I hope I'm not sick. I hope this is just allergies. I feel like it's just allergies, but I'm like, anyway, I love Hudson. It's just too funny. I love him. We just got our asses kicked. I love that. Here we go. So in the first, like I was saying, the first like 20-30 minutes, we get this victim Ripley because she's gone through a traumatic event, real traumatic event. Nobody believes her, and then her license gets taken away, and she's relegated to some menial load lifter or some shit like that. She's doing some dumbass work, and she's having PTSD, absolutely, waking up every night and screaming. So for the first 20-30 minutes, we get this victim Ripley, and then when she runs the loader, we finally get, okay, she's worth her weight. She actually, can function and contribute to what's going on. But then when at this first attack, when what's his name? Oh my God, Corman? Is it Corman? Gorman. When Gorman fails to act, and she's like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna do it," finally we get the Ripley we knew from the second half of the first film. And we're like, here's the badass Ripley. Here is the I'm taking control and I'm doing something. Oh yeah, this is the awesome. Yes, absolutely. So and because it's Cameron and I'm gonna relate, and I've already said, things about Terminator 2. So this is the shift in that character, just like Linda Hamilton's Sarah Connor. In the first film, for the most part, she's very much victim, doesn't know what's going on, has no idea, what am I going to do? But then when Kyle gets hurt and goes down, she finally pushes, get up at the very, very end of the film. And then she goes, she fights the Terminator, but then in Terminator 2, she's like a whole different character. And this is where and this is the same. Ripley is turning into this whole other badass warrior character where she wasn't quite that in the first one. Yes, she was fighting back. Yes, she was holding her own in the first one, and she's the heroine of the first one. But in this one, this is where she starts turning into that badass warrior Ripley, and I love it. I love it. Oh, that's another line that's not Hudson's. Okay, here's a line that is not Hudson's that most people remember from the show. A very memorable line. They mostly come out at night. Mostly. Yes, absolutely. They mostly come out at night. Most people remember that line. So, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Ripley, she doesn't have bad dreams because she's just a piece of plastic. I was not expecting that. You expect Newt to just be another little girl. And when she says that, it cracks me up because I'm not expecting her to be that serious or intelligent about the situation. She's carrying around this head from this doll, and it's kind of her friend. And you would expect her to react as if it were real. But she's like, Ripley, she doesn't have bad dreams because she's just a piece of plastic. I love that. It's good. It brings it nice and home. My mom told me there were no real monsters, but there are. Why do they tell kids that? Because most of the times it's true. It's such a cute scene. I like that scene a lot because it's bringing things down to a more real level. You're dealing with a child who has had to grow up real quick and learn how to survive at such a young age. And so she is kind of childish because she's carrying around this plastic doll head, but she's also very real and smart and intelligent and mature. And I like that they show that dichotomy within that same character. It's really nice. And it's a nice little scene between her and Ripley. Who's laying these eggs? Must be something we haven't seen yet. Holy shit. So he is not subtle at this part. He is not subtle at all about foreshadowing. Who is laying these eggs? Must be something we haven't seen yet. But as the audience, we're going, yeah, something you're going to show, aren't you? Something we're definitely going to see, because you wouldn't say that if you weren't. You wouldn't make it an important thing to say unless we're going to see it. So not subtle at all. Thank you very much, Cameron, for not being subtle about that. I love the sentry part with the guns. To me, it's total badass kind of thing. We set up these sentries, they got hundreds of bullets, but then as alien after alien after alien comes, the bullets are going lower and lower and lower, and everybody's watching. Everybody's literally just watching the bullets go down and down and down. And I know the sentry parts are separated by a few scenes. I'll talk about a few scenes in between, but I'm talking about both sentry parts together. They're so intense because we as the audience and they as the characters know how many bullets are there, and you just gotta know when Hudson says they're wall to wall in there. Yeah, they're like a formidable enemy, and like your only defense, or one of your only defenses, are these sentries, and it's just within a matter of minutes you're wasting all your ammunition. And then I love it at the end, there's like 10 bullets left, and he's like, next time they just come up and walk. And she's like, yeah, but they don't know that. They don't know that, but you feel that tension as the audience, like they do. Like literally next time they're going to just walk right through that. They're done. 10 bullets is not going to stop but one, maybe, you know. Such a great, intense part. Oh, some of my notes got really bad because I was halfway falling. So I started this movie last night, and I meant to get on here and do the review, but my dog Tank was bugging me to lay down. So when I laid down, my notes got worse because I'm trying to write them, and then I just ended up passing out 30 minutes before the end. So some of my notes are pretty bad. What does this say? Oh, it's very pretty, Bishop, but what are we looking at? Holy shit. Okay, when we finally realize that it's not enough that we're being hunted by aliens and we're trying to survive, but now we can't just survive, we've got to get off the planet. Like, the reactor's it's inevitable. He's basically saying it's inevitable. The reactor's gonna overload, and the entire thing is gonna blow up, and it's gonna be equal to a megaton bomb. It's going to be huge, which means we cannot stay here. Great. Great way to add more tension to an already insane and intense situation. I may not be synthetic, but I'm not stupid. I love Bishop. You get these little insights to Bishop's character. Yes, he's not human, but he's being modeled after human behavior. It reminds me of watching the original Blade Runner, where yes, they had little aspects to them that weren't quite, a little quirky and weren't quite human, but they were modeled and meant to be humanoid and react with to act and react with human beings and be among human beings. And so all these little insights to Bishop are really nice, because everybody knows he's synthetic. I may be synthetic, but I'm not stupid. And then he said, watch your fingers. Again, he says, in the very beginning, he said, I'm not allowed to harm, or by mission of action be allowed to harm a human being. And so it's in keeping with his character, and it's in keeping with that directive that he said, watch your fingers, and he doesn't take the gun. I love so that whole little part, very well thought out, very well done, very well written, where he doesn't take the gun, where he's like, I'll do it. I'm the only one qualified to remote pilot the ship. I don't want to go out there. I'm not stupid. I may be synthetic, but I'm not stupid, and watch your finger. That whole little sequence is really nice. You get a lot of nice little insights to Bishop. So smart to have Burke try to impregnate one of them with an alien to get them through quarantine. And we already don't trust him. We already think he's kind of a creep. And now he's just a total sleaze. We know he's one of the bad guys. Absolutely. We're freaking out from the aliens, but the aliens are a bad guy, but by default, that's just their nature. This guy he's just disgusting, Ugh. Anyway, when he gets killed by the alien, I am not sad at all. I'm actually kind of glad that one of the aliens gets him and not, Hicks or anybody, or Hudson or Hicks. Hicks is the one that's like, let's kill him, and then they stop him from killing. I'm glad he gets it from an alien. It's great. It's fantastic. Oh, okay. So that attack with the aliens is great when they come out of the ceiling. Holy shit, super intense. And it's sad to see Hudson go. He's great, but he's got to go. We're getting to a more serious part of the film. We don't want that character there. I love that whole attack. And when they get towards the end of the attack, when Newt gets away or falls down the thing, the vent, and then they go to try to get her, I love that shot. It's so great where she's standing there, she's scared, she's cold, she's underneath the railing, and she's in the water, and then the alien comes up behind her. I know it's a quick, like half a second shot, but it's such a beautiful shot with the alien coming out of the water and the big tail behind it, and the lighting is great in the water. Oh, it's just one of those great, fantastic shots. I wish that it took a little more time so we could see it a little better, but it's a fantastic shot. Great shot. Oh yeah. So we've seen shifts in who Ripley is, like I talk about the correlation or the similarities with Sarah Connor in Terminator 1 and 2. So I love this part when after that attack and we know Newt is gone and she's like, they keep you alive, she's still alive, and he's like, I believe you, but we got to get out of here. Then when she like gets prepared to go after Newt, Ripley is finally on the offense instead of the defense. She's like, I am, quote unquote mother going after my child, type of thing. And I love to see her become, like I said, the badass warrior. This is it. This is like, now she's on, like I said, the offense. She's going after them. Not necessarily after them, but definitely going to get Newt and being prepared and having to fight them. Absolutely. And when we first see the Queen, holy shit. Oh my God, yeah. Oh my God, yeah. Like I know we lead up to the Queen and that little that weird tube with egg sac thing is like, what the fuck? And we're just looking like, this is creepy. It's really cool and it's really well done. Again, Stan Winston, man. Stan Winston. And then we lead up to seeing it. And I love that we're hearing, I'm assuming it's like it's equivalent to like labor pains. We're hearing the female alien and we hear it breathe like that. It's like, holy shit. You hardly ever hear any of the other aliens. The other aliens are very silent, the male ones that are coming after you. And this one is not silent at all. It's very loud. And so I'm assuming it's equating to labor pain, but it also makes it like scarier, like freaky, like more intense, that it's breathing like that steady. And we know it's there. And then when the big jaws come out and the big, see-through teeth, and it's all dripping all that whatever, that secretion. It's awesome. She's awesome. I love it. Stan Winston is just amazing. Did such a great job. And I love that unspoken communication between them. We first see it, and then the aliens are like, the males are starting to come. I guess I'm going to say male and female because I guess that's kind of what we're looking at. Like, they call it the Queen, so we're assuming she's the female laying the eggs, and we're assuming the soldiers are the males. They equate them to ants, so, the males and females look different. So anyway, I'm going to say, the males are coming out, and then Ripley's like, oh no. She sets Newt down and she blasts that fire over the eggs, and the female's like, whoa, she screams, and that look between the two. Well, we get mostly the look from Ripley, but it's definitely a look between the two, and that unspoken communication when she moves the gun pointing right at the egg, and she's like, I'll do it. Like, I'm showing you what this does, and I will do it. It's such a great, so smart, so intense, so smart. And then the one egg that, as they're backing up, the one egg that kind of comes open, and then Ripley gives you that look like, oh, fuck it, I'm doing it. It shouldn't have opened. It was it was the perfect storm. Like, I'm backing out. I'm about to leave, but just as soon as one opened, okay, that's it. Ripley gives her that look like, well, you just fucked up. One opened, and I'm not about to just leave it. And she just tears everything. Yeah, she just tears it all up. Of course, you got to. I love that intense feeling. So she's running away. She gets in the elevator, and the elevator is going slow, but then the door's shut, and the alien's stopped. Okay, good. Now go up. Hurry. She gets up, she comes out, and the ship is gone. And we're like, wait, what? We just started liking Bishop. We just started being like, Bishop's cool. Well, why would he leave her? And we're just like her, like, holy shit. Like, is this really how it's going to end? And, part of me is thinking that. Part of me is thinking, is this really how it's going to... But then part of me is like, it can't. It can't end like that. It can't. And so when he comes, she's, as the alien's coming up, it's such an intense scene, as the alien coming up, and then she's like, close your eyes, baby, and we're like, oh no. And then as almost as it's coming out, Bishop finally comes up and comes in, and I had that thought tonight. Misery, when she stands up, she's like, he didn't get out of the cock-a-doodie car. Have y'all have amnesia? This isn't what happened last time. He didn't get out of the cock-a-doodie car. Okay, so I had that moment tonight because I'm watching and I'm remembering, okay, obviously we know, if you've seen the movie before, you know that the queen, gets on board or gets on the ship somehow and is on the main ship when they land. But you're watching the ship go away and you're like, wait, where? How? We just saw the ship turn and fly away back towards us. There was no alien like hanging off the back of it, he cheated us. I just had that thought tonight and was like, wait, that's there. It's nowhere. They got in. The door was closing. It didn't get in. It was too damn big to get in. And it's not hanging off the ship, when he flies away. So where was it? Okay. You just gotta suspend disbelief and say, okay, it's there. Cameron wants it to be there. It's going to be there. Bishop, you did okay. Oh, I like when she finally warms to Bishop at the end. She's finally like, she accepts him. He did do a good job. He is not Ash. And that connection stays there in the next film, which is great. She trusts him. She believes in him. She's grateful for him. It's nice. And I love when the queen tears Bishop in two. We don't expect it. I like when he pushes her away, when he gets stabbed and pushes her away, and then that brings her up and then tears him apart. I love the soccer mom later on. The soccer mom, like when the alien's coming after her and Ripley pushes Newt. The soccer mom thing was really cool. That whole intense start fight scene, and she goes after him. Oh, and the other thing, so there's a lot of points in this movie that remind me of other films. When the alien is going after Newt, and Newt's under, Ripley's already gone and locked herself in the bay or whatever, in that thing. We know that, she's getting ready to come out with the loader. But anyway, she's locked away in there. And it goes back after Newt and looking under the grades and under all the scaffolding or whatever. And going after Newt. When its hand comes down and those really long fingers and cool... it always reminds me of Pumpkinhead. Again, it's Stan Winston. It always reminds me of Pumpkinhead and the beautiful... makeup he did in that, the beautiful creature he created, which I think I said in my review about horror films, the Pumpkinhead that creature is one of my favorite. When I think of Stan Winston, I think of Pumpkinhead, I think of Aliens, I think of Predator, and I think of Terminator. Like, those are the ones I think of when I think of Stan Winston. Those are the standouts. So this, the cool big fingers, and she's running around, she's moving. It's really cool. Really, I love it. Oh, and of course, another line that is not Hudson's. That's probably the most famous. Yes, I agree. It is probably the most famous line of this movie. Get away from her, you bitch. I mean, it's so great. Yes, now we've got the badass warrior Ripley, the Terminator 2 Sarah Connor. This is the badass Ripley. And she's like taking on the alien queen, and not fucking flinching, whereas Hudson would have ran away. She's not. She's taking it on. I love it, and that line is just absolutely insanely famous. Most people would definitely know that line from this film. Okay, so the book asked me, is there anything I would do? Was I surprised by the ending? Is there anything I would do differently? Oh, okay, maybe there is one thing I would do differently. When she gets the alien and they fall into the she's got the loader, they grab each other and they fall into the pit or whatnot that opens into the space. When she gets out and she goes onto the ladder, you can obviously, I mean, it's so obvious. She's laying on the ground. She is not going up a ladder. She literally lays on the ground. And then she's got to push herself up to actually crawl along the ground and make it look like she's going up a ladder, but she's not. You can see her clothing falling towards the ground. And we're meant to believe that's it. It's just, I get that has been used as a special effects many, many times. I mean, another very, very famous and faux pas looking horrible is Red Sonja when they do that, and they're supposed to be climbing up the wall to go into the castle, but you can clearly see they are literally crawling along the ground. They are not climbing up anything. So sometimes it really looks bad. I get that it's a good way to try to make that look right, but it's rough. Oh, and what was I watching tonight? I was working and watching or listening to Interview with the Vampire because it's Stephen Ray's birthday, and that part with Stephen Ray when he first meets Louis, and then he's walking. He starts walking up the tunnel that they're in, and he's like spinning his shirt and that music's playing. Again, it's another like, we're meant to believe that he's walking along the ceiling, but you can tell he's not. He's walking along the ground. They've got a rotating another rotating room, like I talked about in Inception, which is a really old, I mean, they've done it since Nightmare on Elm Street. But you can tell because his clothing, his hair, everything falls toward the ground, and the ground is where he's walking along the ground, so you can tell. Now, do you use a little bit of suspend disbelief in that because he's a vampire and maybe he all, including his clothes, defies gravity? Maybe, but not this. There is zero aspect of like defying gravity with Ripley going up, quote unquote, up the ladder. Anyway, spent way too much time on the ladder. It was an interesting thing that I was like, I should probably talk about that because it's one of those things that I catch that I would definitely try to figure out how to do that differently. Oh, are we not mad? So tonight was the first time I thought about this. Are we not mad that she kills the mother alien or the queen alien the same way she kills the alien in the first one by like blowing it out into space? Are we okay with that? I guess we kind of are because we love this movie, and we just, she kills the two in the same exact way. Yes, of course, the first one she like shoots with whatever that thing is, like grappling hook, I guess, and then pushes it out and then eventually shoots it out into space. But it's the same thing. This one she gets trapped under something, tries to fight, but then like opens it and the decompression suction like pulls it out into space. It would have been nice if she killed it in a different way. Of course, they do in the third one. So anyway, this is not a long video, partly because you know, my sinuses are driving me crazy, making me feel a little icky, and partly because I recorded like a bunch of this beforehand, so I had to like redo the whole beginning. Anyway, not a long video, only 50 something minutes, 55 minutes, but that's Aliens. Aliens, not Alien. And I am going to do Alien 3 because I love Alien 3, and I'm one of those rare people that, yes, I absolutely love it. Love the director's version, not the original. Love the director's version. And if I'm going to review 1 and 2, I might as well do 3 because I love it. So my next review will be Alien 3 or Squared or however you call it. So thanks a lot for listening, and hopefully soon, probably tomorrow. I'm going to try to do tomorrow, get you a video so that I have a treat later on. I'm not going to tell you what, but yes. And something is coming to replace this empty space where the poster was. So it'll be fun when I get to finally show you that. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll get you another video real soon.